reaction to hearing Andrei bragging that he was giving you an ultimatum?
I just think it's a little disrespectful towards me. But at any rate, it would be the other way around. Because at this point, I told him, if you want to go, go. I'm not going. So that's your ultimatum. If you want to play that game, I can play that game too. Because it's not happening.
Andrei, it seems like she's made up her mind.
In this relationship, I'm wearing the pants, if you haven't noticed.
Okay, go wear them in Moldova.
Well, certainly I will.
The moment Andrei said he was filing for divorce, the room froze. You could feel the air vanish, replaced by a thick silence that even the cameras seemed afraid to break. Elizabeth's face went pale, her lips trembling as if she was trying to hold her world together while it collapsed in front of millions. The audience wasn't watching a recap anymore. They were watching a marriage die on live TV. Welcome to TLC Drama Live. I'm Sabrina, and today we're pulling you right into the middle of the most chaotic tell-all this franchise has ever seen. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because what happened next has everyone questioning what's real, what's performance, and whether Andrei crossed a line that can never be undone. Andrei sat stiff, calm, almost rehearsed. You could see it in his eyes, he knew exactly what he was doing. Elizabeth looked like she'd been blindsided, her body locked between shock and panic. She reached for water, couldn't find it, her hand shaking. The host tried to step in, but the words were already spreading across the stage like fire. Divorce, public, final. Producers rushed in, whispering off camera. Crew members avoided eye contact. It felt less like television and more like a human implosion. Elizabeth's breath quickened. She muttered something no one could hear, then stumbled back. Her mic picked up faint gasps as her chest tightened. A panic attack live on set, unthinkable for anyone, except here, where every emotion becomes content. Andrei stayed seated, cold, eyes locked forward, while the rest of the cast watched in disbelief. Some yelled his name, others froze. The host tried to cut to break, but the damage was already done. Elizabeth was gone, literally offstage, while Andrei delivered his explanation in a voice that barely rose above a whisper. He said he was tired, disrespected, done pretending for TV. The words sounded controlled, but behind them was something darker, a hunger for dominance, maybe revenge, maybe validation. Fans later said it didn't feel like a breakup. It felt like punishment. Like Andrei wanted the world to see her fall apart while he stood untouched. And yet, there's something everyone missed in that moment. Why that timing? Why on stage, under those lights, in front of the people who already doubted him? Because this wasn't spontaneous. This was strategy, and what Andrei planned next would shake the entire cast. Before that stage explosion, the signs were already there. Every fight this season had a trail, and each one led back to money and control. Andrei had been saying for months that Elizabeth's family never respected him. He wanted her to quit working with them, to cut ties completely. But behind his talk about loyalty was something deeper. He wanted total control. Viewers saw it in the smallest things, like who handled the finances, or how every disagreement turned into a lecture about obedience. Elizabeth, once quiet and cautious, had started pushing back. She'd begun earning her own projects, posting independent deals online, and hinting that she didn't need anyone's approval to succeed. That shift didn't sit well with Andrei. On camera, he laughed it off, but off-camera sources said he hated how she was getting advice from people who don't understand family loyalty. Translation: he was losing grip on the narrative. During their last filmed argument before the tell-all, Elizabeth asked him if he ever saw her as an equal partner. He laughed and said, "In this marriage, someone has to lead." The line sounded casual, but it landed heavy. Fans flooded social media calling him controlling, while others defended him, saying Elizabeth's family created the problem. The days before the reunion, crew members noticed how tense he'd become. He barely spoke to anyone. Elizabeth, meanwhile, looked nervous but determined. She told a producer she was ready to speak her truth about their relationship. So when Andrei walked onto that stage and dropped the divorce bomb, the question wasn't just why, but when he decided to do it. Did he plan it right after hearing Elizabeth would confront him publicly? Was it a counterattack before she could expose something bigger? Because the timing was too clean, too theatrical. His cold delivery didn't feel emotional, it felt rehearsed. Some insiders say he even asked production earlier if his segment would air live. Maybe he wanted the shock to be uncut, undeniable. So was it an emotional outburst, or a premeditated play to reclaim power and humiliate her before she could hit back? The answer might explain everything that happened next. Elizabeth's panic started small. Her breathing went sharp, eyes darting as if looking for an exit. Then her body folded in on itself. The studio lights hit her face, making every tear glisten. The host froze mid-sentence. One of the producers whispered to cut the feed, but the cameras kept rolling. Viewers at home saw the chaos, the woman gasping for air, while the man who promised to protect her sat motionless, arms crossed. A makeup artist ran in with tissues, a medic crouched beside her. Cast members looked away, pretending to adjust their mics. Nobody wanted to meet her eyes. In that moment, you could see what this show really does to people. The camera doesn't flinch when a heart breaks, it zooms in. Andrei didn't move, his jaw clenched, his eyes cold. He said she needed to calm down, that she always overreacted. The host tried to restore order, but the silence in that studio was too heavy to cut through. The producers didn't stop it because this is what reality TV feeds on, collapse caught in high definition. When Elizabeth was finally helped backstage, the sound engineer's mic still picked up her sobs echoing down the hallway. It felt invasive, like hearing someone cry through a wall you're not supposed to hear behind. The fans didn't know whether to sympathize or cringe. Social media exploded within minutes, some blaming Andrei, others blaming production for letting it air. The saddest part, Elizabeth's pain was instantly turned into a product. By the next morning, clips were trending, thumbnails flashing her tear-streaked face. The same moment that broke her gave the show its biggest spike in engagement all season. You start to wonder, when does empathy turn into entertainment, and who decides when to stop watching? Because once the panic faded and the headlines cooled, the focus quietly shifted again, to the next couple in line for heartbreak. And in this episode, it didn't take long for the next one to crack. When Andrei turned his attention to Jovi, the mood shifted instantly. One minute he was defending his own mess, and the next he was dropping another bomb. Jovi told me he wants to divorce Yara, he said flatly. The studio went dead quiet. You could almost hear the lights buzzing. Yara froze, her smile disappeared like someone flipped a switch. She looked at Jovi, searching for denial, for a simple no, but nothing came fast enough. His silence lasted just a second too long, and that second was enough to destroy her. Jovi finally spoke, saying Andrei was lying, but his voice cracked halfway through. Yara's eyes filled up. She whispered, "You said that." Her accent thickened, her words breaking apart. Jovi insisted he never did, but by then she was gone emotionally. She covered her face, then looked straight into the camera like she wanted to disappear. The rest of the cast didn't know what to do. Some tried to comfort her, others stared down at their hands. The host tried to change the topic, but Yara wouldn't stop crying. She said, "I give everything for this marriage, everything, and still it's not enough." Fans online later said it felt like watching a real breakdown, not a scene. The makeup running down her face, the shaky voice, the way she kept saying, "I'm tired." Even Andrei, who started the chaos, looked uncomfortable for a moment, then smirked again. Yara's pain felt heavier because it wasn't loud. It was quiet, almost numb. You could feel her realizing she wasn't fighting Andrei anymore, she was fighting her own husband's indifference. That's what made it hit harder. Jovi kept denying everything, but the damage was done. He tried to touch her hand and she pulled away. The crowd gasped softly. That's when the host said, "Let's take a short break," but the energy in the room never came back. For the rest of the taping, they sat apart, avoiding each other's eyes. Yara didn't say another word. Jovi stayed silent too, staring at the floor. The question hung heavy over the set. Was this the start of their divorce, or had it already begun long before? Back from the break, Yara looked drained. Her eyes were swollen, her lipstick gone, but she forced herself to sit upright. Jovi tried to talk to her quietly, but she kept turning her head away. The host asked if she wanted to continue. She nodded without speaking. That small gesture said everything. Jovi started explaining himself, saying Andrei twisted his words, that he was only venting during a fight. His tone was defensive, clipped, and full of half-finished sentences. You could tell he was trying to do damage control, but every word made things worse. Yara stared at him, then laughed once, the kind of laugh that comes from disbelief, not humor. She said softly, "You think my pain is a joke?" Jovi froze. He looked around the stage like he wanted an ally, but no one spoke up. The silence was brutal. The host tried to guide the conversation toward reconciliation, but Yara cut in. She said she felt like she was performing her marriage for an audience, not living it. That line hit everyone. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every tremor in her hands. She said she'd been pretending for too long, smiling on Instagram while crying at night. Viewers online later said that was the realest moment of the whole tell-all. Not the shouting, not the accusations, but a woman saying she's exhausted from being watched. And yet, even in that honesty, the show found another layer of drama. Producers leaned in, knowing this vulnerability would trend. The more broken she looked, the higher the ratings climbed. It's the cruel loop of reality TV, turning private pain into public entertainment. The line between truth and performance starts to blur when the tears become content, and even heartbreak feels rehearsed. When the host asked if she still trusted Jovi, she didn't answer. She stood up slowly, took off her mic, and whispered, "I'm done for now." The crew tried to stop her, but she walked off stage, leaving Jovi sitting alone, staring into the space she'd left behind. The cameras kept rolling, and somewhere backstage, her voice could still be heard, angry, trembling, and hiding something no one expected. Backstage felt like a war zone. Crew members ran in every direction, producers whispered into earpieces, and someone yelled for security even though nobody was fighting. Yara was crying behind a curtain, refusing to put her mic back on. The host stood to the side, shaking her head, repeating, "We're still live." Every second of silence cost the network money, but every tear was priceless footage. Elizabeth was sitting on the floor with a blanket around her shoulders, still pale from her panic earlier. A medic checked her pulse while two producers argued about whether to bring her back. One said, "We need closure." The other said, "She's shaking, are you out of your mind?" But the cameras were already turning back toward her section. The show never pauses long enough for recovery, it only pauses to reload. Lauren entered the frame next, calm at first, holding her water bottle like a peace offering. She went to comfort Elizabeth, but the moment she mentioned Andrei, Elizabeth snapped. "Don't defend him," she said sharply. Lauren looked stunned. What started as concern quickly turned into tension. The two women who once called each other sisters now stood in silence, separated by exhaustion and mistrust. Around them, other cast members whispered. One muttered, "They're next." It was meant as a joke, but everyone knew it wasn't funny. The show had a pattern. Today's comforter becomes tomorrow's storyline. Elizabeth asked Lauren why she hadn't spoken up for her during the onstage ambush. Lauren said she didn't want to make it worse. Elizabeth stared for a long second and said quietly, "You already did." That line hit like a punch. You could see Lauren's expression change, hurt mixed with guilt. And in that instant, a new crack opened. On this show, friendships age faster than relationships, and every alliance has an expiry date. By the time the cameras rolled again, Elizabeth had been led to make up for a touch-up, Lauren was pacing by the monitors, and producers were already whispering the next name on their list of potential meltdowns. When the cameras came back on, Lauren and Elizabeth were sitting apart, pretending nothing had happened. But anyone watching could see the ice. Every answer sounded rehearsed, every smile too slow to reach the eyes. The host asked about loyalty among cast members, and Lauren took the bait. She said, "Some people confuse loyalty with control." Elizabeth tilted her head and said sweetly, "Or maybe some people call accountability control when they don't like being called out." You could almost hear the producer cheering from the control room. They'd been waiting for this. The fake smiles cracked and the truth spilled out. Lauren accused Elizabeth of twisting stories, of leaking private texts to Alexei and pretending it was an accident. Elizabeth shot back that Lauren plays victim for sympathy and forgets what she says when the cameras are off. Each line sharper than the last, and both perfectly aware the audience was eating it up. Lauren tried to pull herself back with a half laugh, saying, "I love her, but she can gaslight a light bulb." Even the host couldn't hide a smirk. Elizabeth didn't laugh. She leaned forward and said, "You don't love me, you love the drama that comes with me." That's when it stopped feeling like a segment and started feeling like a breakup. Two people who once called each other family now sounded like rivals fighting over screen time. Fame had turned private trust into public ammo. The audience didn't know who to side with. Some called Elizabeth manipulative, others said Lauren finally snapped after years of being overshadowed. The irony? Both of them were probably right. The cameras caught every side-eye, every half-smile, every tiny betrayal that said more than their words ever could. By the time filming wrapped, neither woman spoke again. But the silence didn't last long. Hours later, fans noticed both had unfollowed each other on Instagram. Lauren posted a cryptic story saying, "Some friendships expire when the fame kicks in." Elizabeth replied the next morning with, "Some friends were never friends, only followers." The feud had officially gone digital, and the internet was wide awake. When the chaos from the tell-all cooled, attention shifted to someone who wasn't even in that room. Natalie. While the others fought their battles under bright lights, she was quietly rebuilding herself off camera, or at least trying to. Her breakup with Josh had ended months ago, but the fallout hadn't stopped. Friends said she withdrew completely, stopped answering messages, and started talking about fixing the parts of herself that people judged. Soon after, she announced her nose surgery. At first, fans thought it was another reality TV makeover, but the tone was different this time. Her posts were calm, almost eerie. She kept saying she was finally becoming the woman she deserves to be. On camera, it sounded like confidence. Off camera, it looked like pain repackaged as empowerment. People close to her say she wanted control. After years of being edited, mocked, and doubted, this was one choice that belonged only to her. Changing her face meant rewriting the story that others had written for her. It wasn't vanity, it was armor. But that armor came at a cost. After surgery, she started obsessing over every detail, checking mirrors, taking endless selfies, deleting half of them. Compliments gave her temporary highs, criticism sent her spiraling. Friends said she began planning more procedures, convinced each one would silence her insecurities. The irony was cruel, each change made her less satisfied than before. Producers kept filming. They called it a journey of self-love. But what viewers saw was a woman trying to erase the evidence of heartbreak. Her reflection had become her battlefield. When love collapses on screen, control becomes the new addiction, and every fix promises peace that never lasts. Josh stayed silent publicly, though insiders said he felt guilty watching it all play out. He'd told friends he didn't want to be the reason she hates her own face. But by then, Natalie had moved on, or thought she had. A new man appeared, one who praised her transformation and encouraged her to keep going. Those words sounded like support, but they'd soon turn into the fuel for another emotional fire that nobody saw coming. Natalie's new relationship began quietly, almost strategically. She never posted his face, never said his name. Only hints, a reflection in a mirror, a man's hand in a restaurant photo, a caption about finding peace. Fans thought she'd finally moved on, but those who knew her said the peace felt forced. The man was older, wealthy, and obsessed with appearances. He praised her new face constantly, called her a masterpiece, and told her she'd never look this perfect. At first, that attention filled the emptiness Josh left behind. Then it became something else, an addiction to approval. She started shaping herself around his preferences, from clothes to makeup to diet. Her confidence began to sound scripted, like she was performing happiness for an invisible audience. Friends said she kept asking if she looked enough. Enough for him, enough for the camera, enough for the version of herself she was trying to sell. It was empowerment on the surface, escape underneath. That pattern wasn't new, it mirrored everything we'd seen this season. Andrei's control disguised as leadership, Yara's tears turning into public proof of loyalty, Lauren's friendship breaking under the weight of exposure. Every one of them trying to manage chaos by holding tighter. Every one of them losing more the harder they tried. Natalie's obsession grew with each compliment, like a reward loop she couldn't escape. When he hinted she could go even further with more surgery, she didn't hesitate. It wasn't about beauty anymore, it was about survival. In her mind, as long as he admired her, she was safe from rejection. But control built on fear always cracks. Insiders said the new man began pulling back, canceling plans, ignoring calls. Natalie's posts became erratic again, quotes about self-love mixed with late-night videos where she looked drained. The transformation she thought would save her was now consuming her. It's the same story playing out across every cast member's life, different faces, same wound. The more they chase control, the more the cameras take it away. And as the tell-all fallout spread across social media, fans realized the truth. None of them were villains. None were victims either. They were all trapped in the same loop, fighting for dignity in a show built to take it. By the time the credits rolled, the show had stopped pretending to be about love. It was about endurance. About who could survive public humiliation with a steady smile and who couldn't. The tell-all didn't unite couples, it exposed them. Every relationship cracked under the weight of exposure. And the truth is, that's exactly what keeps the cameras rolling. Andrei's need for control, Yara's heartbreak, Lauren's betrayal, Natalie's transformation, they all fed the same machine. The show doesn't reward healing, it rewards chaos. The more they fall apart, the higher the ratings climb. Producers don't have to script anything anymore. Real pain performs better than fiction ever could. It's easy to judge them from our screens, to call Andrei cruel, or Yara dramatic, or Natalie insecure. But behind those labels are people who once thought the spotlight would make them feel seen. Instead, it magnified everything they wanted to hide. The camera doesn't care who's right or wrong. It only cares who breaks first. And that's where the audience comes in. Every comment, every meme, every share becomes part of the cycle. We reward the same behavior we claim to hate. We scroll through their breakdowns, mock their confessions, and then wait for the next one. The show isn't creating monsters, it's reflecting the appetite that built it. Still, there's a reason people keep watching. Under the mess, there's something painfully human about it all. We see ourselves in their worst moments. The fear of rejection, the craving for control, the hope that someone will still choose us after seeing every flaw. Maybe that's why we can't look away. Elizabeth's silence, Yara's tears, Natalie's reflection in the mirror, they're not scenes anymore. They're reminders that fame never heals what love breaks. And yet, they'll keep coming back, because the show has become their therapy and their trap. Reality TV isn't just about exposure. It's about what happens when you start mistaking pain for purpose, and how far you'll go to stay relevant once the audience starts looking elsewhere. As the dust settles, rumors are already spreading about what wasn't shown that night. The off-camera arguments, the leaked texts, the secret reunion footage that producers allegedly buried. And trust me, what's hidden behind those locked drives will make this tell-all look calm. That story's coming next.